Welcome, welcome to everyone. I am so excited that we decided to hold mindful poetry the day before Thanksgiving. As you can imagine, Kim's giving us the finger snaps for this. It's one of those things that's easy to think like, oh, people are going to be too busy. But I know for me, the space that you've all created together is one of the things I'm most grateful for over this last year plus. So thanks for everyone for being here. I see a lot of familiar faces, but I want to go ahead and just welcome everybody once again, whether you're brand new to this space or whether you've been coming. And I want to just give a little overview to the hour that we spend together. So I'm Stacy and Ro is that way. I don't know where Ro is on your screen, but we're with The Well, and we create programs that try to speak to the potency of a moment to help heal us personally, relationally, and collectively. And for this program, we're so proud to partner with the On Being Project. We have Eddie Gonzalez here. I see April and maybe some other folks from the On Being Project, so welcome. And as you probably know, and if you don't, look it up right away. On Being always celebrates poetry, but there's a relatively newer podcast called Poetry Unbound. And we select our poems for consideration, writing, and for sharing in schools from Pedrego Tuma's gorgeous Poetry Unbound podcast. And the way this hour works is that we do a meditation together, a short meditation to get in the room. And then we have a poet come and talk about a single poem, give us some insights, and then prompt us to do our own writing. And we'll do our own writing for around 10 minutes, and we come back and we share. You can choose to share out loud. You can email us your poem, or you can choose to keep that private. But you'll see pretty quickly it's a generous, generative space for creating. A couple of other odds and ends. We have Anne with us, who is able to provide closed captioning thanks to On Being. All you need to do is click on the live transcript button at the bottom of your screen. What am I forgetting to do? So I want to introduce our guests. So leading the meditation is the luminous Cami Lerma. And I've known Cami for many years now. Cami is also on our board of The Well. And Cami is just I remember being with Cami at a group of women who are in recovery from addiction and trauma. And Cami didn't have a large role in our forum, our gathering, our circle. But what I'll tell you is that Cami was the one who got a note from one of the participants who basically said, I just want to be like, inhabit the world like you do. And that is who Cami is. Cami is hold the wisdom. So we're very happy to have Cami with us. Brad Aaron Maudlin is one of my personal favorite poets. You're going to learn more about Brad if you don't already know. We're going to send you links to his website and his amazing books. Brad's a poet. He's also the chair of creative writing at the University of Nebraska. And when the poem we're going to celebrate today, we thought of Brad right away because I'm sure Brad has many things he can write about, but I think of Brad all the time when I think of sort of the domestic landscape of the familiar for gorgeous meaning making. So I think that's it. We're going to turn it over to Cami and begin.
Thank you, Stacy, for that introduction. Okay. As we begin this meditation together, find a comfortable position where your body feels safe and supported. Close your eyes or allow your gaze to shift downward and soften. Notice the edges of your eyes and allow them to melt. Let your jaw be slightly open. Drop your shoulders into a relaxed position. Bring your awareness to your breath as it moves in and out through your nose. Fully experience the rising and the falling of your breath. Allow whatever has been happening, not happening, or that you wish were happening in your life to drift off into the background. Right now, this time and space is for you. Drop your awareness down to your bottom ribs and feel them flare out on the in-breath and contract in on the out-breath. Slowing down your breathing, take a deeper breath in. Hold it at the top for a second or two. And on an extended exhale, let everything go. Now find the rhythm of the breath that is right for you. See that in this present moment, there is a sudden small spark that instantly grows and fills the room with a warm, gentle, comforting, golden light. The light moves. You are keenly aware of the exact moment the light permeates the boundary of your energy field and provides a restorative, healing energy to your spirit. The light makes its way inward, making connection to the space, holding all of your life's memories in a jumbled, tangled timeline. This space is revitalized as the light travels deeper within. The light, passing through your field of feelings and emotions, moves further inward. The light sinks into your physical body and moves into your heart space at the center of your chest, bringing healing and clearing to the space of timelessness and truth. The journey does not end here. The light, having entered your innermost self, now expands outward from your heart space, as if it has been exhaled onward through your emotional field and beyond. The light once again illuminating the mind space, charged by the wisdom found at the innermost parts of your heart space, bringing new perspective and insight to the jumble of memories that live there. And finally, the light expands outward once again to your spirit, illuminating it with the wisdom of the heart, bringing new awareness to the present moment. A path has been cleared. You're now ready to begin your creative exploration. As we bring this meditation to a close, point and flex your feet, rotate your ankles, Allow your awareness to travel up your legs and into your body, up across your shoulders, down your arms, and into your hands as you open and close your fingers, and coming up into your throat and into your jaw as the edges of your mouth lift upward. And now allow your attention to rest behind your eyelids. On your next exhalation, allow your eyes to blink open, slowly, feeling alert, deeply refreshed, and connected. This meditation is now complete. I'll turn things over now to Brad, Aaron, Maudlin.
Thank you so much for that, Cami. I feel very focused now. Well, let's open with the poem. Thank you, Ro. So here we have today's poem from Poetry Unbound. It's called When We Were 13, Jeff's father left the needle down on a journey record before leaving the house one morning and never coming back. And this is why none of us sing along to Don't Stop Believin' when we are being driven by Jeff's mom. 4 boys packed in the back seat tight like the tobacco in them cigarettes Jeff's mom got riding shotgun with us around I-270 and a powder blue Ford Taurus where 4 years later, Jeff will lose his virginity to a girl behind the East High School football field. Then later that night, his keys and pants in the school pool so that he has to run home crying to his mother with an oversized shirt and no pants like a cartoon bear. And the next day, when I hear this story, I will think about what it means for someone to become naked 2 times in one night, to rush into the warmth of 2 women, once becoming a man and once becoming a boy all over again. But right now, it is just us in this car with Jeff's mother, that cigarette smoke dancing from her lips until it catches the breeze from the cracked front window and glides back towards us, a vagabond, searching for a throat to move into and cripple, while Neil Sean's guitar rides out the speakers. And I don't know how many open windows a man has to climb out of in the middle of the night in order to have hands that can make anything scream like that. Nothing knows the sound of abandonment like a highway does, not even God. In the 1980s, everyone wrote songs about someone leaving, except for this one, because it's about how the morning explodes over 2 people in one bed who didn't know each other the night before when alone was the only other option, and their homes had too many mirrors for all that shit. And so it is possible that this is the only song written in the 1980s about how fear turns into promise. I think I know this because there is so much piano spilling all over our laps that we can't help but to smile, since we still black and know that nothing can ransack sorrow like a piano. Jeff's mother's hands trembles and still wears a wedding ring, so she pulls over to the side of the highway and turns the volume up so loud after the second guitar solo when the keys kick in again that we can barely hear the cocktail of laughter and crying consuming the front seat until the song fades away and the radio is low again and the ring once on Jeff's mother's hand is on the side of the highway beneath us, a sacrifice. And so maybe this is why Grandma said a piano can coax even the most vicious ghosts out of a body. And so maybe this is why my father would stare at the empty spaces my mother once occupied, sit me down at a baby grand and whisper, "Play me something, child." Thanks. We could close the poem and we'll come back to it. But I just love this poem. I'm so glad that to have the chance to share about it with you all. I think poetry is often about knowledge and ignorance. It's about what we know, what we don't know, what we used to know but don't know, what we've unlearned, what we in retrospect had no idea about, but now that we're adults, we see. And that's one of the things I really admire about this poem is it approaches that so wonderfully. The speaker is learning through the examples of all the adults around him, the power of music. He's also learning that life brings us sorrow, as well as the comfort or the partial cure to that sorrow, in this case, through music. The poem, actually, could we pull it up again, Rose? Sorry to close it, then bring it back up. But the poem begins with saying, and this is why none of us sing along to Don't Stop Believing. So we've got the background to the song is, this is the song that he put on and then he left the family, right? So the 13-year-olds in the back of the car think, oh, this song's on the radio, uh-oh, we are not gonna sing it. We're not gonna sing along. This is a painful memory. This is a triggering memory. We're going to avoid it. But then what happens is Jeff's mother hears the song and she doesn't turn the music down. She doesn't change the channel. She doesn't pretend that this is not here. She, in fact, turns it up. The poem at the end concludes with similar language. So at the first, we were told the poem begins, and this is why. And then look at the end. These last two paragraphs or stanza graphs. And so maybe this is why. Grandma said a piano can coax even the most vicious ghosts out of a body. And so maybe this is why my father would stare at the empty spaces my mother once occupied, sit me down and ask me to play. And so in the poem, the speaker has moved from thinking that music, sad music or the music of memory, or maybe even just memory in general, that those are things to avoid, to having the realization that it's something that should be embraced. So a lesson has been learned over the scope of this poem. With memory, of course, there's always two components. There's two time periods, right? There's now and there's the past that we're looking at. So here we have the poem is primarily taking place where the boys are in the car. I might call that the narrated time. That's where the majority of the poem takes place. That's sort of the storyline. But it also has in the title the memory of when Jeff's father set the record down and left. So we've got the present and we've got the past. But in fact, this poem, that's not all that it has. A lot of poems will have, a present tense looking back at a memory. But this kind of mixes things up all over the place. So that's something I would like to think about today. I think that's actually one of the lessons this poem can give to us is this idea of time existing all over the place and memory existing all over the place, and that our knowledge actually exists in multiple times. So I'm going to get a little professory here, if you all will play along. And I thought we could make a timeline of this poem and look at what are the different points in time that we have present here. So I don't know if you can you all see, you can see my wonderful substitute chalkboard here. Okay, so I've gone ahead and written one thing that we've got is the narrated time where we've got the boys in the car, right? If you all feel comfortable to wave your hand and let Ro know, she can unmute you and you can help me think of some of the other times. I think I can think of about 6 different time periods that we have here in the poem. We've got this, and then the title gives us the point in time in which Jeff's dad left.
Also got when Jeff, I guess, when Jeff tells the poet about what happened to him. So that moment, I don't know when.
Yes.
And also,
yes.
The moment when Jeff is, I guess, even when he's running back to his mum, when he's doing the stuff, but also running back to his mum. So maybe there's even more. Because Jeff is also talking about multiple times.
Yes.
When he's telling the story.
We call it Jeff's big night.
Yeah.
and then right after that, we've got him telling the speaker about the big night. Okay.
We've also got 2 different people here. Well, we've got a lot of different people here. And some of them have a past and some of them have a present.
Yeah.
So Jeff's mom is in the present,
Mhm.
whereas Jeff's dad is in the past,
Yeah, I love that.
and Jeff is in the future after the car ride. Assume that the car ride is taking place in the present. Okay, then, you know, Jeff himself is in the future.
Mhm.
And then a past.
Say that again, sorry.
I think the narrator has a past,
Yeah.
and that was with his father. When his father would ask him to play that song. And there's the mother, which is gone.
Hmm.
Sometimes the father's gone, sometimes the mother's gone. So there's a couple of different narratives.
Yes. Yeah, I'm so glad that you brought that up, Deborah. So it's in a way, it's like each character is sort of existing in a different time period, as you say, and then this part where the play me a song. How do I put that on the timeline? I'm just going to put it like this because we don't know when that was, right? We don't know, was that from ages 8 when the narrator says, you know, he's 13 in the car? Was it before the car when he was ages 8 to 12? Is it after the car? Because we also have now, whenever now is, let's say, you know, 2021, when we're thinking back on all of these things. And this right is so fascinating to me about the poem, because at the end, he's like had these realizations. Oh, this is why these adults in my life said these things about piano music and how it, but when did he have that realization? And when did he know that? Was he in the car? I kind of suspect, if we're thinking literally in that car at age 13, he wasn't thinking that in that moment of the song, right? But it's like he looks back at it now with this awareness and with this knowledge that he didn't have then, but maybe in some ways he kind of did. And when we're in the car, we're flashing to the future. It's just this wonderful mix of like, what do we know? What did we know? What wisdom do we have? And when do we actually learn a particular lesson? To me, that's again one of these real gifts that the poem is offering us. Even it's offering us a way, or even a brand new way of thinking about knowledge and ignorance. There's the line, "Nothing knows the sound of abandonment like a highway does, not even God," which is quite an interesting line if you're thinking about knowledge. Even God doesn't know something. But then when you're 13, he probably wasn't thinking about abandonment. He wasn't thinking about a highway, didn't have a driver's license. That's probably knowledge that came to him later in his life, and that the poet now is able to access when describing this moment in the past. There's the realization at the end about, you know, why the father asked him to play, and now he seems to get it, but maybe not at the time, because at the time he was still thinking, oh, don't sing the song. Don't sing the song that will set people to their sad memories. He doesn't know what's going to happen in 4 years with Jeff. There's that flash forward. So the poem has this overlap of when we are, of where we are, of what we know, and how we know it. The three most important objects in the poem, I think, tell me if you think differently, but I think the three most important objects, if I had to pick, would be the record, the car, and the ring. And so a record is something that spins around and around in a circle. And even the song comes back circularly back into their lives on this unexpected moment in the car. When they're on a journey in the car, they still come back. It's not linear. And they're not on Interstate 70 or 75. Those of us who have lived in Ohio might recognize that 270 is in fact a circular, it's a loop around the city of Columbus, right? So they're again returning perhaps to where they earlier were. And then we end with a ring, another circular object. And so it seems like the poem is also inviting us to think about this idea that maybe we've been where we are before, that maybe the knowledge that we are accessing at this moment was in fact knowledge that we had. Maybe as an adult, I can look back and realize what Jeff's mom may have been thinking, but maybe to some degree, I did know that as a child. I did know to to be quiet during this sort of holy moment of her turning up the music and laughing and crying. I knew not to ask her what was going on. I had some type of wisdom, even grown-up wisdom, in that moment. And then it also talks about generational knowledge, the cycle of what people before knew, the older adults in his life, as well as the shared knowledge of the community, which we could also think of as cyclical. He says, because they are Black, they know nothing can ransack sorrow like a piano, the shared knowledge of a community. And then sort of central to the poem too is this important night in Jeff's life when he became a child and became an adult at the same time. So all of these things brought to mind to me this quote from Madeline L'Engle. I don't know if you've come across it before, but she said, "I'm still every age that I have been. I still am every age that I have been. Because I was once a child, I'm always a child. Because I was once a searching adolescent given to moods and ecstasies, these are still part of me and always will be. This does not mean that I ought to be trapped or enclosed in any of these ages, the delayed adolescent, the childish adult, but that they are in me to be drawn on." So always, when we read a poem, there's what's on the page and there's what we bring to it. And I think one of the things that we can think about now that we may be bringing to this poem today is that for many of us, we're celebrating Thanksgiving tomorrow. And so we are returning to traditions, returning to experiences we've had before, being with people maybe we've been with since we were 13 years old, riding in cars. Returning to traditions. Some of us maybe weren't able to experience certain traditions in 2020. And so now we're returning to those with a different knowledge, back to where we were, but somehow differently. So my invitation for us today with our pages is to think about what we know and what we used to know, what we know, what different parts of ourselves knew in the past and didn't know. So I actually have two parts to this. So if you're ready to get your pen and paper, I invite you to first make a list of things that you know today. The word today is kind of big. So if you want, you can make it really small and actually literally today on Wednesday, November 24th. And you can think about knowledge that you have used today. This could be practical knowledge, such as a recipe you learned from your mother for baking on this for Thanksgiving. It could be that you drove today and your knowledge of driving. You resolved a conflict. You found a way to get along with some people at work or in the family. What's some knowledge that you have now? So maybe we can spend about 2 minutes just kind of listing that, and then we'll look at that knowledge from a slightly different perspective. And if you can bring that to a pausing place, not a stopping place, but a pausing place, we'll have the second part. And the second part is you can look back at some of that knowledge that you have. And, we often say, if I knew then what I knew now, let's flip that and say, I didn't realize it, but I did know then what I know now. That would be one sentence you could write, kind of repeatedly write that and fill it in as a prompt. Or a second prompt would be, I am 10 years younger than I am. And I know I am 10 years older than I am. And I know. Having that in present tense both times with the sort of acknowledgement of Madeline L'Engle's idea that we are kind of all of our ages simultaneously. Do those make sense?
Brad, so right now we're just doing our two lists. We're not doing any comboing, right?
Yeah, I think if you want to combo, that's fine. But if you even just wanted to make choose one list and do it, you may be able to get quite a bit of thought out of just one.
Okay.
And as folks want to share in the chat, would we open it to that when folks are ready, or say that for later?
I just have one quick a clarifying question for my brain. Are we now taking our 10 minutes to kind of compose a poem out of this, or are we still building our world? Ro, can you unmute Brad?
Sorry, yeah, thank you. Good question. So my thought is this could be the poem that we create is sort of a list poem that lists these particular things. And if
Okay.
you ever get stuck, then you can return to that initial sentence and let that be the fifth line of your poem, kind of keep you going.
Okay, wonderful. So now we should take more of our 10-minute writing time. Is that correct?
Yes, that'd be great. Yeah.
Thank you. I'm going to set the timer, everyone. If you have any questions, I'll keep an eye on the chat. But this is our writing time, and we'll all be back soon. Thanks, Brad. We've got about another minute before we'll come back and we'll start hearing where we got with our. Alrighty, friends. Let's bring ourselves back into the container of the group. And what we would love for you to do is, if you would like to share, it helps us a lot. It helps Ro be able to identify you. If you, at the bottom of your screen, you should be able to find a reaction button, and there should be at the bottom or somewhere a little hand up sign. That would be great. You can also write in the chat, I'd like to read. And Brad will call on you as you put your hands up, and Ro will unmute you.
We have Kim Jackson says she would like to share.
Hi, friends. Thank you. Thank you for this prompt. The dogwood tree on Bells Ferry Road. I didn't know anyone could see me when its branches gave me safe vantage of the goings-on across the road. The way my legs dangled taught me to balance more than my stakeout supplies, and gave me the notion I could fly. The way cars passed made me wonder where there was to go, so fast, so frequent. I didn't make note of scraped knees, the pang of hunger, blossoms that snapped off under my shoe. The things I documented may be needed to solve a mystery or locate treasure or leave. I didn't yet know that I knew some windows don't open and scuppernong vines aren't always in view.
Thank you. Yeah, I look, some windows don't open. Thank you, Kim. That looks like I see Hannah's hand up. Hannah Conti.
Hi, thank you. I am 24, clutching a bundle of precious baby and crying into his newborn scented fuzz, whispering, I wish I could be thankful. I wish I could be more grateful. If only I were a better mother. If only I were more able. I am 24, clutching that swaddling like a life raft, knowing life is full, but overwhelmed and secretly wishing I was no longer alive. I am 34, crying again over the same now 10-year-old sleeping on the couch, his mouth slightly open, fuzz starting to grow on his legs and arms. His mouth opened just as he called me a long list of names and wished I was dead not half an hour ago. I now know my life is full and growth keeps coming, just as I knew 10 years ago. I am clutching this bundle of hope, and I know the overwhelm does not overcome. I am strong enough to hold the fullness of my life and my son's. Thank you.
Thank you. Wade?
All right. On that day at the beginning of junior high, which ended in tears, on that day on which I arrived smiling with a briefcase and a tie, on that night when I burrowed into my soft bed, I didn't realize I may grow more in the dark than by the light of day. Like a limestone tower laid down lightless over countless time, each night I grow. And in the morning when I arrive, I discover I did know then what I do know now.
Thank you. Thank you. Looks like I see Nina Lewis's hand.
On the wrong page. I didn't realize it, but many everyday lessons come from my mother. I smile at the fact she's been teaching us all this time. Stealth mode learning. Far too wise. She knew if she said, this is the way, or it works best if you, we'd never take her up on it. Yogurt for cereal, mother. Car clock set 4 minutes early, mother. The position of my driving hands, mother. Remembering a route by landmarks. I have to pause, father. Mother never remembered right. The pink wall she had my brothers driving around the city searching for was a scene with one pink house depicted somewhere in its multicultural center. My photographic mind, more like my dad's head for music. Mediating, resolving conflict, mother, making packed sandwiches from frozen bread, childhood lesson job at 8 to box them up 5 ways, mother. The snowman, mother, to try to keep my rage under control, mother. I realize now my rage is dad. And before he left us, she spent a lifetime, 3 decades at least, reining his temper in, soothing, mothering. Most of our learning stems from our caregivers, but sometimes life throws you 1 or 2.
I suppose maybe we have time for 1 or 2 more. I think I see George's hand. Maybe still on mute.
Georgia, I'm sorry. We need to unmute you. You're going to have to do it again. So Ro will.
No
practice.
problem, no
Okay,
problem.
now we're ready.
The title of my poem is Now I Am 75 and I'm Still Afraid. Mom was mad again, grabbed her fur coat, screamed, I'm not coming back. It is night. I'm 4. Looking down from the 2nd floor, Mom's in the Model T, driving back fast. It's dark. She's left us. Dad's at his office away from Mom. He'll come home. I tell the operator 8. Dad says hello.
Hmm.
Hears me cry that mom is gone. Dad says, go back to bed.
Hmm. So much knowledge that we have hidden or up front or not realizing. I think Elena says in the chat that she would like to share, and maybe that will be our last one for the day.
Thank you. I'm never sure if I get the prompt right, but this is what I came up with.
There is no wrong or right. It's like eating a Reese's. However you do it the right way.
Thank you. I feel unfinished. I'm attracted to unfinished things. A lost manuscript, 3/4 of a symphony, a painting left in outline, 2 deaths, 2 surgeries, meeting the same type of person over and over again, yet no one left to follow my dying mother's mandate. Take care of my little one. I am constantly a child, a motherless daughter, trying to fulfill broken promises. I am on the brink of annunciation, tasting what my path might be. This is what happens when the called say no. Left in a state of unknowing, there exists a certain joy in just being okay. I look at the past today and I am still hiding, keeping safe for the next phase where all my fears are lamps to the future. Thank you.
It seems like a nice final line for us to end on. All our fears are lamps to the future.
My golly, friends, so much beauty again. So before Brad reads us out with another final reading of Harif Abdurakib, did I say that right? Hanif or Harif? Hanif. Ro, can you say it?
It's Hanif with an
Hanif
N.
Abdurakib, who is an Ohio poet hanging out in the middle part of the state where Brad also spent some time, I believe, who's really getting a lot of wonderful attention. So follow him in his work. Super grateful to all of you. As always, you will get a note from Ro, and that will invite you to share anything you've written with us so we can put it on the blog with the recording of this beautiful time together. And we'll also make sure that you get information about upcoming events. Our next one is December 22nd. So we'll see if we can take another moment to mine all the gorgeousness about family and past and history and complexity right before the next holiday we share together. Again, thank you to On Being, Pedrego Tuma, Poetry Unbound, Hive, Mercantile Library, and WordPlay, our co-sponsors. And all of you, my goodness, I'm going to have a better Thanksgiving for all of your beauty. So we'll turn it over to Brad for a final reading, and also thanks to Cami for the beautiful meditation.
When we were 13, Jeff's father left the needle down on a journey record before leaving the house one morning and never coming back. And this is why none of us sing along to Don't Stop Believin' when we are being driven by Jeff's mom, 4 boys packed in the back seat, tight like the tobacco and them cigarettes Jeff's mom got riding shotgun with us around I-270 and a powder blue Ford Taurus, where 4 years later, Jeff will lose his virginity to a girl behind the East High School football field. Then later that night, his keys and pants in the school pool so that he has to run home crying to his mother with an oversized shirt and no pants like a cartoon bear. And the next day, when I hear this story, I will think about what it means for someone to become naked 2 times in one night, to rush into the warmth of 2 women, once becoming a man and once becoming a boy all over again. But right now, it is just us in this car with Jeff's mother, that cigarette smoke dancing from her lips until it catches the breeze from the cracked front window and glides back towards us, a vagabond, searching for a throat to move into and cripple, while Neil Sean's guitar rides out the speakers, and I don't know how many open windows a man has to climb out of in the middle of the night in order to have hands that can make anything scream like that. Nothing knows the sound of abandonment like a highway does, not even God. In the 1980s, everyone wrote songs about someone leaving, except for this one, because it's about how the morning explodes over 2 people in one bed who didn't know each other the night before, when alone was the only other option, and their homes had too many mirrors for all that shit. And so it is possible that this is the only song written in the 1980s about how fear turns into promise. I think I know this because there is so much piano spilling all over our laps that we can't help but to smile, since we still black and know nothing can ransack sorrow like a piano. Jeff's mother's hand trembles and still wears a wedding ring, so she pulls over to the side of the highway and turns the volume up so loud after the second guitar solo when the keys kick in again that we can barely hear the cocktail of laughter and crying consuming the front seat until the song fades away and the radio is low again and the ring once on Jeff's mother's hand is on the side of the highway beneath us, a sacrifice. And so maybe this is why Grandma said a piano can coax even the most vicious ghosts out of a body. And so maybe this is why my father would stare at the empty spaces my mother once occupied, sit me down at a baby grand, and whisper, "Play me something, child."
Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. Take care of yourselves. We will see you in a month. Thank you, Brad. Thank you, Cammie. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Good night.